She changed your life.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Bar none. I mean, she's like the best.
How did she change you?
She has brought out the absolute best in me. Like in just about every way. Like, didn't think we were going to go here. She believed in me. And I think that's what most guys want. Truly. At least for me. That's what I wanted. Or needed. I'll tell you a story to illustrate it. So we met, talked for 4 hours on the first date, only about business, because that's all I wanted to talk about. And I pitched her on working for me. I was like, quit your job, work for me. And she was like, I just met you. Logically makes sense. She was a personal trainer. I had a bunch of gyms. And I was like, if you're this good, you should totally work for me. She was like, well, let's see how this goes. And so I had this idea for the turnaround business, and it was right as I had five locations at that point, and I wanted to try this thing out. So I flew out, did 3 turnarounds, flew back, and they started working. And then I sold all my gyms because it was like, okay, this makes even more money. I took all the money and put it into this gym that one of the guys I was doing a turnaround with was like, dude, you just crushed this. Like, I'm a really good operator. Instead of turning his gyms around and walking away with just the money, he's like, you should just keep owning them, and I'll just fill them up behind you. So I could launch 1, 2, 3 gyms a month and then own them all. He's like, you're leaving so much money on the table. I was like, okay. So we did this first launch. I put all the money in. He was like, of course, he had financial difficulties, and I had to personally guarantee the lease, normal stuff. And so I crushed this launch, and then I wake up one morning, I check the bank account, and it's completely empty. And I was like, what's happening? So I called him up, and he was like, well, I know you're skimming from the business. And I was like, what? He's like, I know you're skimming. I was like, what? No. He's like, well, that was my half. And so I was like, what is happening? So I printed all the bank statements. I went line by line. I was like, I'll walk you through all the bank statements. Let's get to the bottom of this. And I remember we sat to the meeting, and he was like, I don't need to see that. And he pushed it off the table. And I was like, oh, okay. I immediately was like, oh, I just got fucked. And he'd already been indicted for fraud. And I knew this getting into business with him, and it was just a big misunderstanding. And, the saying goes like, when experience meets money, money gets the experience, and experience gets money. Very much lived that. And so after I had all my gyms, I sold them, put all the money in this thing, and then it all got taken. And so I had nothing. And Layla's with me at this point for this exciting period. So I was like, okay. She was like, hey, maybe we should keep doing these turnarounds instead of this weird launch and go thing you sidelined for. I was like, okay, we'll do that. And so I was going to launch a gym the next month. And there was a guy who was local to that gym. And since I was refocusing, I was like, all right, I'm going to build all the infrastructure. I'll send the sales guy out to do this thing. And he crushed the launch. Did like 120,000, which for us was a big launch, in like 3 weeks. And so now I'm at Layla's parents' house because we don't really have a house at this point. And I'm the guy that she met from the internet that she quit her job for, who just lost everything. And I needed this $100,000 to come in from this launch so that I could recapitalize. And the money wasn't hitting. I was checking the bank account. I was like, where's this money? And I could see the processing, the transactions, and it was all successful. What's going on? So I called the processor up, and I was like, what's up? And they said it's a routine check. I was like, I've been with you guys 6 years. It's never been a routine check. And they were like, call again later. And I was like, okay. So I called about the next day, nothing. And then finally it was Christmas Eve. And I owed this guy money for the commissions from the sales. And I was like, I will not get off this phone until you send me the money that I am owed. And
to the payment processor.
Mm-hmm. And they were like, long story short, you were doing stuff in different locations, and I was running this all through a local gym business, even though I was all over the nation. And they were like, this is a little irregular. We're just going to hold on to this for 6 months.
Shit.
Right. Now I owe the guy $22,000 in commissions. I, in total now, had $23,000. So I wired him the money, and I had $1,000 left. And it was December of 2016. And I was like, I screenshot it because I still have the screenshot on my bank account. So I went from like 6 gyms, turnaround business, all this stuff to $1,000. And I was like, this sucks. And Layla had just got 6 of her friends to quit their job to come do this turnaround business with me. And they were starting 2 days later from the 24th. So the 26th of December, because I planned on getting this $100,000 in and then being able to launch 6 gyms because they took about, whatever. It was $3,300 a day in cost to have 6 guys out there in the field selling. $3,300 a day that I did not have. And so I still had a credit card that had a $100,000 limit on it. And so I'm at her parents' house, like in an extra bedroom, having lost everything. And my one Hail Mary play of this launch, the money did not come through. And I was like, I think you should leave me. I think I am a sinking ship right now. And I would respect you. Like, we're cool if you want to walk away. Like, we're good. Like, I won't think less of you. Like, I would walk away from you right now because this has a very high likelihood of not going right. And she pulled my chin towards her and she was like, I would sleep with you under a bridge if it came to that. And it's hard to comprehend, but like, I had nothing. Like, for her to have that kind of belief was very, it was deep for me. So it was like, fuck it, let's go. You know what I mean? And so then we launched the gyms doing $3,300 a day. And mind you, I had no way to process money still. So I'm collecting 60 to 80 contracts a day that I can't process. And so we're getting calls from customers like, hey, why haven't you run my card? Why haven't you run my card? I'm calling all these processors to be like, hey, can you please? And as soon as you get shut down from a processor, it's like a black mark. It's like going bankrupt for credit cards. They're like, oh no, something's weird. They just won't. They have other people they can process the money for. Finally, I get like a high risk processor that does like porn and casinos and stuff to like give me. And they were like, yeah, so it's going to be like 8% processing and we're going to hold 10% as like safeguard. And I was like, Jesus, okay, yes. And they're like, and we can only give you $50,000 as your limit. And I was like, I need like 200. And he's like, well, and I got this on the 29th of January. So this whole time, 3,300 a day is running on this card and I have no money and I have no way to process it. And 29th of January, I can run 50 grand. I run 50 grand in a day. And he's like, but it's by month. He's like, so February 1st, you can run another 50. So February 1st, I run another 50. That 100 covers my costs from the month before. And then I get 2 more processors for 50. Boom, boom, run those. And then like I got a third one or fourth one like 2 weeks later. And I was able to like start moving things around. And at the end of February, we'd made like a $30,000 profit. And I was like, okay, I think we might be out of this. The next month we did a little bit more and I was like, okay, I think this is working. And then all of a sudden Layla taps me on the shoulder one morning and she turns her laptop towards me and it's our bank account and has all these negative transactions, like hundreds of them. And I was like, what's going on? She's like, well, all these clients are calling me saying that the gym that we did this launch at a month and a half ago, the guy got in his chair and was like, hey, there's too many of you here. Like, just go home, just refund, because I was the one who held the money. They had to do the delivery. That was the model. It's like I would fill a gym up, I would sell, I'd keep the money, and then they deliver on the services, and after that they could keep the customers. That was kind of like the setup. And then another gym the next week said, hey, this guy made 100 grand out of my gym. The average gym owner makes $36,000 a year take home. He's like, this kid from the internet took 100 grand out in a month. Screw that kid. And so he told all the customers who were there after we had left, hey, I'll keep delivering your thing, refund him, just pay me half what you paid him.
So after they cut you out.
Right. It was a flawed model. Like I didn't understand, like I didn't get it at that point. And so we had $150,000 in refunds that I had to cover and I had no way of doing it. Mind you, like Layla's like, we're going to do this. I believe in you. Jesus. And so I'm like, I can't sleep. I remember because what would happen is like the more we sold, the more the refund, like it was a vicious cycle. So I had to sell more to cover the refunds from the ones that were coming in. And so our sales were going up and it was just like, I couldn't breathe. And I would wake up at night anyways. And so I'm like writing down these ideas of like what I think I could do. We had 8 launches that were supposed to launch next month. So I said, hey, Layla, you have this little weight loss business because she had her personal training business. She converted her in-person clients to online during this whole process. So she was making like $3,000 or $4,000 a month, and mostly because like I'm not stable. I'm like making all this big money and then losing it all, and then making it and then losing it. And she's just like paying groceries and actually like making sure that I can eat. And I was like, tell me more about that. I was like, what's your overhead? How much time does it take you? And then blah, blah, blah. And I was like, we're going to do your thing. We're going to call it Queen Transformation. I'm going to start running ads for it. And we're going to take the sales team and we're going to put it on your thing. And so within 14 days, she starts taking the phone calls because she was a good salesman. She's doing $1,000 a day online. No, all margin.
What's her product?
It was a 16-week like weight loss program. That
online.
Online, exactly. And so it was $500. She was selling 2 of them a day. And so I was like, man, if we get the eight guys going, we'll have 8,000 a day, 240 after ad spend. I was like, I can make 150 in profit and like we'll be in the clear. So I called the 8 guys that were supposed to launch the next month, the gyms. So I get on the phone with the first guy and I was like, hey, we're going another direction. You know, we're gonna be a weight loss company, sell direct to consumer. And he was like, dude, you launched my buddy's gym like 2 months ago, and like he can't stop talking about you. It's like it's packed. Because there are other gyms that everything went fine with. Just the ones that didn't is the ones that crushed the business. He's like, I know you can do it. And I just refinanced my house and I maxed out my credit cards to make this gym happen, and I'm gonna lose it. And given what I had been through up to this point, I was like, that's tough, man. Like, sorry about that. And then finally he was like, instead of flying, can you just show me what you did to help my buddy out? Can you just give me like the system? And since I was like, I'm going to get out of this gym business, I was okay like selling my secrets. And so I was like, all right, man, I'll give you everything I have, but I'm not going to fly out there to save your ass if you can't sell. And he said, no, it's fine. And so I picked up the highest number I could think of because he already told me he was broke. So I figured I could just get him off the phone so we could move on. And I said $6,000. And he was like, $6,000? I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, done. And I remember like looking at the phone and being like, holy shit, $6,000? And I was like, oh, what card do you want to use for that? Like, wrote on like a cardboard box. And then the next call I had the same thing. And I was like, well, shoot, I have to make this thing now. And I was like, same conversation. He's like, how much? And I was like, $8,000. And he was like, yeah, okay. And each of the calls, I was like, next call, same thing, $10,000. Next call, same thing, $12,000. And then the next, at the end of the day, I'd sold $60,000 in licensing packages for all of the stuff that we did to do the turnarounds.
Is that monthly or is that just
it was a I didn't even have it. I was just like, I'm just giving you everything I do. Yeah. It became more like more it became a recurring model over time. But
it was a PDF or something.
It was actually all my internal stuff. So it was like what I used to train my sales teams that would fly out, and like what I would use to train them on how to do nutrition orientation. Like it was all the internal stuff. The only thing I actually made external was I had to create the advertising material. So I had to basically make a white label landing page for the gyms that they could put their logo on. And then I licensed them the ads themselves that we already knew converted.
Right.
So like the videos, the copy, everything. They used like videos of me that we knew converted, and I taught them how to run them. And then that's what it did it. And we made $60,000 in a day. And Layla came in from doing her 2 sales for weight loss. And I was like, I think we're still in the gym business. And she was like, what? I thought we were doing weight loss. Like you just told me, you sold me on weight loss being like the next thing. I was like, I just think we were doing it wrong. And so I explained what had happened. And she was like, so is this what we're going to do now? And I was like, I guess. I was like, I can call the other 30 gyms that we did the turnarounds for. I was like, they know we can do it because we just did it for them. And so I called all those guys up and we did like $300,000 in sales that month. And it was basically all profit. And I covered the refunds and I covered the everything. And we were like in the clear. And then it was just, and then all those gyms that we did that we sold, the average gym did $30,000 in extra cash collected in their first month using our system. And so the key was that like, if they didn't have to pay the overhead of the sales guy who's there every day at the hotel, the commission for that guy, like the rental car, the per diem, like all the stuff that you have to incentivize and just like rent it out of their own gym and work the leads themselves, it became incredibly profitable for them. And then it just took off like wildfire. Like we went from like our first full 12 months of like January to January, we did 26 million top line, wow. 17 million in EBITDA. Our first 12 months, like it was insane. Like it's hard to comprehend that. Like that was the moment I had been like dead broke in her parents' house, and then like 6 months later, I have $3 million in the bank account, and then like 12 months after that, I've got like 20 million. It was insane, and I didn't even know how you could pay taxes. Like I was figuring all this stuff out. But through that whole thing, Layla was just like you can do this. Like, we can do this. Like, we've got this. And I think sometimes you just need one voice behind you that just keeps believing.